Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and I have type 1 diabetes. Today we're going to talk about a time I had ketoacidosis. First, let's start off with what ketoacidosis is. Again, if you think that you might have DKA, obviously talk to your doctor, your provider. This is a disclaimer that I'm not a healthcare provider. If you have questions, please reach out to your individual healthcare provider. Anyway, ketoacidosis is a buildup of acid in the blood. So, ketoacidosis is also known as DKA, which stands for diabetic ketoacidosis. This condition is triggered when there isn't enough insulin, or it could be triggered by an illness or an infection. As you can see by this lovely Google image, there is, this is the pancreas, this is normal insulin, these are your tissues in your cells. These are your tissues. And then, so with ketoacidosis, there's your pancreas, there's less insulin. As a result, extra glucose builds up, and that causes ketoacidosis. Let's go over the symptoms of DKA. So symptoms often include thirst, frequent urination, nausea, abdominal pain, weakness, fruity scented breath, and confusion. The whole body experiences dehydration, excessive thirst, fatigue, loss of appetite, nausea, appetite, malice, or weakness, gastrointestinal, nausea, vomiting, mouth dryness, or fruity scented breath, respiratory rapid breathing or shortness of breath, urinary excessive urination or frequent urination, also common blurred vision, mental confusion, sleepiness. So basically those are the signs and symptoms. Okay, so now that we have gone over the signs and symptoms and what DKA is, I'm going to start with my story now that we've covered that. So basically, last week I had a buildup of ketones, and I did not realize it because basically my blood sugar, it started off with my blood sugar staying stubborn throughout the whole day, and I was like, okay, maybe my blood sugar is just being stubborn. But then I was like, I'm really not starting to feel well. My stomach started hurting. I felt like I had like chills or something like that, like almost like you would feel if you had the flu. So I just thought I was sick for some reason, and I was like, okay, maybe this will, so I just had chills basically, and also I just felt like really confused, and yeah, I felt like my breathing was getting like a bit shallow as well, so basically it wasn't good. They said if I called my endocrinologist, and they said that if I were to vomit, then I'd have to go to the emergency room. Hi everyone, this is my editing self a few weeks later. This whole thing with the ketoacidosis thing actually happened probably 3 to 4 weeks ago or something like that. And I've been really busy with schoolwork, and I actually had an ear infection that I got over probably last week or 2 weeks ago after the whole ketoacidosis thing, so I've had a bout of bad luck. Unfortunately, it could be worse, but still, that prevented me from making the videos. Right now I'm going through my finals, but anyway, so I just wanted to include the reason why the vomiting is dangerous while you're in ketoacidosis is because vomiting causes dehydration, and dehydration can increase your ketones even more. So that's why they ask if you're vomiting while you have ketones, because the vomiting can increase your ketones, in which case you would have to go to the emergency room if you were vomiting. Because you hear people that go into DKA going to the emergency room. Luckily, I had thought to change my site. I had thought to change it too late, unfortunately, because I was confused because I had all those ketones. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have thought to change my site sooner. So that goes to show, if you have ketones and if you have an insulin pump, remember to check your site, because there might be a problem with your site. When I went to take off my site, I saw the catheter was bent, and I was like, oh my gosh, catheter was bent inside my site. Basically, I called the endocrinologist, and they were like, okay, just give yourself some insulin and stuff like that. I had to give myself more insulin than I would usually take because of the ketones I had, and I just kept on taking water to kind of kick the ketones out, and that's what they told me to do. It varies on a case-by-case basis, and what your experience is like with DKA. Luckily, I didn't have to go to the emergency room. I really didn't want to have to do that, so I was just able to I just called and I increased my insulin rate, and I increased the amount of insulin. I had some water because that's what they told me to do. Make sure if you have ketones to consult your provider, but I just thought I would share that experience that I had, and make sure that if you do have ketones, to check your insulin site. The way that I checked for my ketones, in case anybody doesn't know, is that I used my ketone strip. Okay, so as you might be able to see here, I used my ketone strips. And the way that you use these ketone strips is that you go to the bathroom, and then you have to wait a few seconds, and then it changes like colors. So yeah, there are also ketone strips where they're more like a meter kind of, but you have to use different kind of test strips. I have that as well, but that day these were the ones that I used. No particular reason, I just kind of used these that day. Yeah, so as you can see, there's a different code on the back. If don't have ketones, it'll just kind of like stay the same color. If you have a small trace of ketones, it'll look like that. If you have a trace, so this is if you have no ketones, the tan looking color. If you have a trace of ketones, it looks like that. If you have small ketones, it looks like that. If you have moderate ketones, it looks like that. If you have large ketones, it looks like that. And then the largest amount of ketones, 160, looks like that. So this is the code on the back. You're supposed to wait a few seconds for it to change color. And also remember, because I remember I was like, oh my gosh, why do I still have ketones? Because it was like a couple hours later, and I was like, oh, that's because if you don't go to the bathroom I know it sounds gross, if the urine was staying in your body for a few hours, those are the ketones from a few hours ago. So basically you just want to make sure that the urine isn't old, if you catch my drift. Yeah, so that's how it would work most accurately. Also, another thing that could happen when you have ketones is that your blood sugar doesn't always have to be high to have ketones. Sometimes your blood sugar will be in a normal range, and you'll still get ketones. Like for example, if you don't eat enough carbs, it could be possible that you could develop ketones. So it is possible to get ketones even if your blood sugar is within a tighter range. Also, let's talk about when you're sick. When you're sick, your blood sugar is more likely to be a little bit higher because you're sick, which can lead to an increase of ketones. But there are also cases where, let's say maybe your blood sugar isn't as high, and maybe you're not eating as much because you're feeling sick. So that way you might not be consuming as many carbs. And even if your blood sugar is within the range that it usually is, or if your blood sugar is within a tight range still, your blood sugar, you can still develop ketones if you are not consuming enough carbs due to the illness or virus. This is the first time I really remember getting ketones. How long have I had diabetes? In the 12 years that I've had type 1 diabetes, I haven't had ketones for this. This was because of a faulty site. And some people have the misconception that you have to have uncontrolled blood sugars in order to have ketones, which yes, this is possible if you do have uncontrolled blood sugars. And it's where because my site was faulty. So that goes to show to check your site, to just think of every possible situation, maybe check your site. Just even if you're, again, if your blood sugar is within a tighter range, it's still possible. If you feel off in any way, it's just good to check your ketones. It's good to have the ketone strips. It's good to have the meter. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share the word. Bye-bye.